and by covering the whole body, your integumentary system separates inside the body from outside. First, we'll see the parts of this system. Then we'll talk about the important functions of the integumentary system. The main organ of this system is the skin. So we'll talk about the skin first. There are two types of skin present in our body, thick and thin skin. So we'll see the structure of the thick and thin skin. Then we'll talk about the glands in the skin. Your skin has three different types of glands. So we'll talk about those glands of the skin. What kind of secretion occurs from those glands. Then we'll talk about the layers of the skin. Skin has two layers. Outer layer is called the epidermis and inner layer is called the dermis. We'll talk about both. How many layers the skin has and structure of the outer layer epidermis and inner layer dermis. Then we'll talk about a couple other things like water loss. How we lose water from the body. Through the skin, you know that we lose some water from the body. So we'll talk about that. So organs or parts of the integumentary system. Main organ is the skin, which covers the whole body. Accessory structures of the integumentary system are hair, glands and nails. We'll talk about those structures too. First, the functions of this system. Protection. Skin provides three types of protections. Chemical protection, biological protection and physical or mechanical protection. Chemical protection is given by the secretion from the skin. Skin secretes low pH chemicals. That's called acid mantle. You know, low pH means acidic, right? So acidic secretion, acid mantle that can kill the bacteria. So that is one type of protection. Another is biological. In your skin, you have phagocytic cells. They do phagocytosis. Two types of phagocytic cells are present in the skin, dendritic cells and macrophages. So these cells engulf the antigens or microorganisms. Okay? So this is the biological protection given by the skin. Another type of protection is called mechanical or physical. Your skin has keratin and glycolipids. Keratin is a highly specialized protein. Remember, keratin is a highly specialized protein. And glycolipid. Glyco means glucose, lipid is fat. So glucose and fat together form glycolipid. And these two chemicals block most water and water soluble chemicals from entering into the body. Prevents water and water soluble chemicals from entering into the body. So basically these two chemicals make waterproofness gives waterproofness to the skin, which is very good. You know that when you just think, when you take bath, right? You sit in bathtub, in water we don't see, but you know, microorganisms, other chemicals, right? Harmful antigens are there. If they can easily enter into the body through the skin, then you will get sick easily, right? So your skin has these two chemicals that will stop the entrance of water through the skin, which is good. If water enters into your body, and when you come out from the bathtub, your skin, under the skin, lot of water, it will uh, not happen. Okay, so those are three types of protections. Then skin regulates body temperature, another important function. How skin regulates body temperature? Two ways. One is skin has sweat glands. You all know that skin has sweat glands, and when sweating occurs, water leaves the body. Water leaves the body, and water takes a lot of heat out from the body. You know, water has high heat capacity. You must remember we had talked about that. Water has high heat capacity. So a small amount of water can take a lot of heat out from the body, and that will decrease the body temperature. That is one way skin lowers the body temperature. Another is when body temperature increases in your skin, vasodilation occurs. The blood vessels in your skin dilate. Make sense? So more blood circulates in the skin. So when more blood circulates in your body surface or skin, the heat can easily get out from the blood. So vasodilation increases the blood flow, increases the blood flow in the skin or body surface, increase heat loss to the skin. So in these two ways, your skin decreases the temperature. So if your body temperature increases, your skin will help to lower it. Cutaneous sensations. In your skin, you have the receptors. Those are called cutaneous receptors. Which receptors are cutaneous receptors? Pain receptors, touch receptors, temperature receptors. Those receptors are called the cutaneous receptors, and they are present in the skin. That's why you feel pain, touch, temperature in your skin, because of the presence of those cutaneous receptors, which is very important. You know, if something very hot touches your skin, if you don't feel that, you won't move the body away, right? So that will burn your body. Just one example. If in this room the temperature increases suddenly a lot, first you will be able to detect because of those receptors in your skin, temperature receptors. Make sense? And you will get out. So for our survival, we need those receptors. Metabolic functions. Skin produces a chemical that is called cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol. Your skin produces this chemical when sunlight falls on the skin. So when sunlight falls on the skin, skin produces cholecalciferol, which is an inactive vitamin D. It's a precursor of vitamin D. Then blood takes the cholecalciferol to the kidneys, and inside the kidney, cholecalciferol is converted to calcitrol. Calcitrol is the active form of vitamin D. Okay, so calcitrol is the active vitamin D produced in the kidney. But first, the cholecalciferol must be produced to produce calcitrol, and which occurs in the skin. So you see, skin helps in the synthesis of vitamin D. Excretion. Your skin secrete the metabolic waste. Some metabolic wastes are leaving the body through the skin, particularly nitrogenous wastes like urea, uric acid. You can write it down, urea, uric acid. Those chemicals leave through the skin. Those are harmful chemicals. Now, two types of skin are present in our body: thick skin and thin skin. Where you will find the thin skin? Most of the body areas are covered by thin skin. Okay, thick skin is only present in few areas. For example, your palms and soles. Now, both the thick and thin skins have two layers. The outer layer is called the epidermis, and inner layer, which is much thicker, is called the dermis. So these are two layers of the skin. Now, under the dermis, there is another layer which is called hypodermis. But remember, hypodermis is not a layer of the skin, it is under the skin. So it is hypodermis is under the skin. It contains a lot of fat or adipose tissue. Adipose tissue or fat. But this is not a layer of the skin. Skin has two layers: outer epidermis, inner dermis. Now, in the thin skin epidermis, you have four layers. So, thin skin epidermis has four layers, but thick skin epidermis has 5 layers. Okay, so that is the difference between thick and thin skin epidermis. Now, dermis, although dermis is much thicker than the epidermis, but dermis has only 2 layers. Okay, so this is the outer layer of the dermis, that is called the papillary layer, and inner one is called the reticular layer. Okay, so dermis has only 2 layers, but epidermis has 4 or 5 layers depending on the skin, if it is thick skin or thin skin. Okay, now you see here those 2 layers of the skin, and hypodermis which is under the skin, and it is also called subcutaneous layer. Cutaneous means skin, by the way. Cutaneous means skin. Hypodermis has a clinical significance. Subcutaneous injection is given in this layer. You know, sometimes we inject the drug just under the skin. Have you seen that? That is called subcutaneous injection. The drug is pushed in this layer. Why? Because this layer has adipose tissue or fat, and fat has small amount of blood circulation, less blood circulation. So when you inject the drug there, less blood flows in that area. So the drug will stay there for a long time, will be slowly taken into the blood because less blood goes there. Make sense? So if you want any drug to work for a long time, for long period, you will do what? You will inject subcutaneous. If you want immediate action, you will inject intravenous, right? Into the vein. Directly it will go to the blood. If you want not too fast, not too slow, intramuscular. Okay? If you want slow action, subcutaneous, like insulin. We want the insulin to work for several hours, right? You don't want to inject every hour. So you will do subcutaneous injection. Okay. Important structures found in the skin. Most of the skin structures are found in the dermis, not in the epidermis. So what are the structures you will find in the skin? Skin has glands, sweat glands and sebaceous glands. There are two types of sweat glands. We'll talk about that later. So two types of sweat glands and sebaceous glands. Hair follicles, hair roots are present inside the skin. Cutaneous receptors, we have talked about that. Pain, touch, temperature, those are the receptors. Just know that some receptors are present at the nerve endings. So these are the nerves, and the receptors are present attached to the nerve endings. Three nerve endings. So these are the receptors. Some receptors are not free. They are present inside the corpuscle. So like Pacinian corpuscle. These are the receptors covered by connective tissue layers like this. So encapsulated inside the capsule. So receptors are found at the nerve endings like this and inside the corpuscles. Blood vessels are present in the skin, but remember, blood vessels are present only in the dermis, not in the epidermis. No blood vessels are present in the epidermis. Epidermis is avascular, absence of blood vessels. Only the dermis has the blood vessels. Muscles, tiny muscles are present in the skin. Those are called erector pili muscles, and those muscles are attached to the hair follicles in the skin. So see, just think this is a hair, it lies on the skin. We know that hair lies on the skin like this, and erector pili muscle is attached to the hair follicle. So when this muscle, this is the erector pili muscle, contracts, it pulls the bottom of the hair like this, so the erection of the hair occurs. Goosebump. Okay, so it pulls like this to erect the hair. So this muscle helps in that erection of the hair. Goosebump. Okay. Now, in the epidermis, you have 4 or 5 layers. and those layers are formed by cells. Those are cellular layers. The cells we see in the epidermis are, most of the cells are simple squamous. Most of the cells are squamous type cells. You know, squamous means flat cells, right? So most of the cells of the epidermis are squamous type of cells, and many of those squamous cells are dead, not alive. So mostly by the dead squamous epithelium. Now the squamous cells form many layers of squamous cells, so that's why it is called stratified. You already know stratified means many layers of squamous cells, and these cells are filled with keratin. You must remember I said keratin is a highly specialized protein that gives waterproofness, right? Prevents the water from entering into the body from outside. So that's why we say keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Many layers of flat cells, but those cells are filled with what? Keratin. That's why called keratinized. So that's the most common type of cells in the epidermis. Other cells we see are keratinocytes, melanocytes, dendritic cells, tactile cells. Those are some other cells. Keratinocytes produce keratin. So that is another type of cells. Melanocytes produce melanin. So very simple. Keratinocytes produce keratin, specialized protein. Melanocytes produce melanin, which is a pigment, brown to dark color pigment in the skin and in the hair too. So melanin producing cells are melanocytes. Dendritic cells are phagocytic cells. We have talked about that before, also called Langerhans. Tactile cells are touch receptors. These cells work as touch receptors. Here you see the structure of the skin. First see the left side, outer epidermis, inner dermis. And under the dermis you see hypodermis contains a lot of fat, the yellow structures. Now you see most of the skin structures like glands, hair root, hair follicle, blood vessels, erectopili muscles, nerve endings, corpuscles, all those structures are present in the dermis, not in the epidermis, right? So you see, dermis contains most of the skin structures. And you see that blood vessels are only in the dermis, not in the epidermis. So epidermis doesn't have any blood circulation. Now the question is then, how the epidermis gets nutrition and oxygen if there is no blood circulation? From the underlying dermis, by diffusion, nutrition and oxygen enter into the epidermis. So by diffusion from the dermis, nutrition and oxygen enter into the epidermis. And that's why you know that the outer surface cells of the skin are mostly dead squamous cells. These are mostly dead squamous cells because these cells are far away from the dermis, right? So get less oxygen and nutrition, so they die and shed from the body. The cells are here, they get more oxygen and nutrition, so they are alive cells. Okay. So that's the structure of the skin. Now we'll talk about the epidermis. Epidermis has 4 or 5 layers. In thin skin epidermis you have 4. In thick skin epidermis you have 5. So we'll see what are those layers. If you go from innermost layer to outermost, this is the innermost one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, like that. In thick skin, innermost layer is called stratum basal or basal layer. This layer is formed by a single row of stem cells. So you have stem cells in this layer, and the stem cells, you know that, can quickly produce new cells. So that's why this layer is also called stratum germinativum, the germ cell layer or stem cell layer, and can produce new cells by rapid multiplication or division. Okay? And once a new cell is produced here, we know that outer cells are dead cells, so they leave the skin and the new cell moves up. And for a new cell from the stratum, from the innermost layer to outermost, it takes 25 to 45 days to reach here to the outermost layer. Okay. Next layer is the stratum spinosum. Why this layer is called spinosum? If you see the cells in this layer, the cells have spines, spiky structure on the membrane. Okay, so that's why called spinosum, also called prickly layer. In this layer, you have plenty of melanin granules. You know that melanin gives the color of the skin, pigment, brown to dark pigment. And also phagocytic cells of the skin, dendritic cells, are present in this layer. So melanin granules and dendritic cells. Next layer is stratum granulosa. Why this layer is called granulosa? Because if you see the cells in this layer, the cells are filled with granules, small particles, chemical particles. Okay? So that's why this is called granulosa. Which granules are found inside the cells in this layer? 2 types of granules, keratohyalin and lamellated granules. And just know that these granules give waterproofness to the skin. Then stratum lucidum. This layer is only present in thick skin, absent in the thin skin. That's why thin skin has 4, thick skin has 5. This layer is also called clear layer. This layer is transparent, like a thin flat glass. And this layer is formed by dead keratinocytes. So the cells are called keratinocytes, are found in this layer. Outermost layer is called the stratum corneum. So that's the outermost layer of the epidermis. This is also called horny layer, and this layer is mostly consists of dead squamous keratinized cells. Most of the cells are dead cells in this layer because this is the outermost layer. And in the thick skin, you will see this layer is very thick. In thin skin, this layer is thin. That's why this layer gives the thickness of the thick skin, stratum corneum. If you see the stratum corneum in thick skin, it is really thick. In thin skin, it is much thinner. So that's why this layer is mainly responsible for the thickness of your thick skin, not the lucidum. Although we know that stratum lucidum is only present in the thick skin, absent in thin, but this one is a thin layer, so it doesn't have anything with the thickness. Thickness is given by the corneum. Here you see the stratum corneum of a thick skin in the right side and thin skin in the left side. So now you can see the difference, right? And in thick skin, it is very thick. You see many layers of flat squamous cells, and those cells are mostly dead squamous cells. Here you see those layers they have shown. Keratinization is a process by which the dead squamous cells get filled with keratin. You already know. You see, I showed you the dead squamous cells are filled with highly specialized protein keratin. Now, how these cells get filled with keratin, that process is called keratinization. We know that two types of cells are related to keratin. One is called keratinocyte. So keratinocytes. Keratinocytes, remember, keratinocytes produce and secrete keratin. Okay, and then the dead squamous cells receive the keratin. So the keratin then enter into the dead squamous cells. So keratinocytes produce and secrete keratin, that protein molecules, and then the keratin molecules enter into dead squamous cells, and this process is called keratinization. Keratinization. How the dead squamous cells get filled with keratin, and now these cells, those are filled with keratin, are called keratinized. Keratinized cells. Okay, so keratinocytes secrete and keratinized cells get filled with keratin. Make sense? Two different types. Keratin producing cells are keratinocytes, keratin receiving cells are keratinized cells. Okay. Dermis has two layers, outer papillary layer and inner reticular layer. The papillary layer gives 20% thickness of the dermis. About 20% thickness of the dermis is given by papillary layer. Inner reticular layer gives about 80% thickness of the dermis, remember. And outer papillary layer, this is also important, is formed by loose areola. You already know areola type connective tissue. Okay, and reticular layer is formed by dense, irregular type connective tissue. You already know both of these types of connective tissue you have seen under the microscope, right? So papillary is by loose areolar, reticular by dense irregular. So now you know that outer papillary layer is soft. This layer is, the fibers are loosely present. So inflammation can easily occur in this layer. Inflammation cannot occur easily in reticular layer because it is dense. The fibers are heavily packed, right? So it is hard. You know, dense structure is hard. Lot of fibers in it, so very tough, hard. So inflammation doesn't occur in this layer, but most of the time occurs in the papillary layer, which is loose type connective tissue. And also microorganisms can easily enter into loose tissue and spread easily. So that's why dermatitis, we very often hear the term dermatitis. It is the inflammation of the papillary layer of the dermis. Papillary layer of the dermis. This layer can be easily get injured by mechanical force or pressure or by the microorganism invasion. It can easily enter. Okay. Okay. Water loss. We lose water from the body in different ways. Some water losses we feel, we see that we are losing water from the body, right? Some water losses we don't see, we don't feel. It is happening all the time. So that's why we divide the water loss into two types, sensible and insensible. The water loss that you see or feel that you are losing water, those are sensible water losses. Those you don't see or feel, those are insensible. Okay, now you tell me, urination is what? Sensible or insensible? Sensible, right? You all feel that water is leaving the body, right? Sweating is what? Sensible. When you are breathing or talking, you are losing water. That is what? Insensible. We don't see it, right? But we lose water. I feel thirsty after I give my lecture, right? Because I lose water. Okay, so we divide. Through the skin, both sensible and insensible water losses occur. When sweating occurs through the skin, that is sensible, right? But also through the skin, by evaporation, we lose water 24 hours. When even you are sleeping in resting condition, we are losing water. We don't see that. So that is insensible. So through the skin, sweating is sensible water loss. Evaporation is insensible water loss. Color of the skin. Skin color is interesting. It has also political impact, right? Some people, see the skin color and think that, we are different than others, those kind of things. So interesting topic. Skin color is given by a number of factors, mostly by the pigments. The main pigments that gives the skin color are melanin. Melanin are brown to dark colored pigments. And the darkness of the skin is due to the melanin. Melanin is produced by the cells called melanocytes. Very simple. Melanocytes produce melanin, keratinocytes produce keratin, right? So, melanocytes produce melanin, and melanin has a very important function in your skin. It forms a barrier or protecting shield against UV radiation. So, UV radiation cannot pass through the melanin shield. So, the darker skin is more protected against UV radiation because darker skin has more melanin. Keratin is another pigment present in human skin in very small amount. Very trace amount of keratin is present. In some plants or fruits, you have plenty of keratin. For example, carrots, right? The color of carrot is orange. Skin of the oranges, right? You have plenty of keratin. In human skin, we have very small amount and mostly in the palms and soles, in those areas. Keratin is yellow to orange colored pigment. Hemoglobin, red colored pigments present inside the red blood cells, and because of hemoglobin your blood is red. Because of hemoglobin the blood is red, found inside the red blood cells. Now hemoglobin also is responsible for the skin color. You know, if someone's blood has more hemoglobin, the color of the skin is pink. If you have less hemoglobin, that is called anemia. Have you heard that? Okay. If the hemoglobin concentration goes down, then the skin color changes. And by looking the skin color, your doctor can, tell that you have lower hemoglobin in the blood. So the skin color is also contributed by the hemoglobin. By looking at the skin color, we can diagnose some clinical conditions or diseases. For example, just I have mentioned anemia. If someone has decreased concentration of hemoglobin in the blood, that is called anemia. And you can tell by looking at the skin color. The color of the skin gets pale. Hypertension, more blood flows in the skin, and particularly when more blood flows in the face area, the face color changes, flushing of the face skin, and that by looking at that you can tell somebody got high blood pressure or hypertension. Jaundice, yellow coloration of the skin and mucous membrane. So yellow coloration of the skin and mucous membrane is called jaundice. Why the skin color turns to yellow? Because of the increased concentration of a pigment that is called bilirubin. Probably you have heard that. Increased concentration of bilirubin is yellow pigment that causes jaundice. Okay. So by looking at the skin color, you can diagnose jaundice. Cyanosis. If the concentration of oxygen decreases, carbon dioxide increases in the blood turns bluish and the skin color changes, becomes bluish. Bluish coloration of the skin due to lack of oxygen is called cyanosis. So those are some cases where the color of the skin changes. Okay. Now we'll talk about the glands of the skin. Your skin has three different types of glands. You remember I said sweat, there are two types of sweat glands and sebaceous gland. But before we talk about that, we'll talk about the exocrine glands of the body. Why? Because all those skin glands are exocrine type of glands. All the skin glands are what? Exocrine type of glands. There are three types of exocrine glands: merocrine, apocrine, and holocrine. Those are three classes or types of exocrine glands in the body. And this classification is based on the mode of secretion. Mode of secretion. How the glands secrete. The mechanism of secretion. So, first we'll see merocrine. What happens in merocrine type secretion, you see these are the cells inside the gland. Vesicles are formed inside the gland. So these are the vesicles. And chemicals accumulate inside the vesicles. And then what happens? These vesicles move towards the upper end of the cells, apical end. So now the vesicles are here, filled with the chemicals. Okay, and then what happens? The vesicles rupture. Rupture of the vesicles occur, and the chemicals get out. Okay. And then new vesicles are formed again, and they move up, and again same thing happens. So this is called merocrine. Type secretion occurs in the merocrine glands. Vesicles are formed, vesicles move to the upper end of the cells, and then rupture of the vesicles release the chemicals. Make sense? So that is merocrine. In apocrine, what happens? These are the cells in apocrine gland. No vesicles are formed. The chemicals in the cytoplasm, the chemicals move up to the upper end. So the chemical molecules accumulate at the upper end of the cells like this. And then the entire upper portion of the cell is destroyed. The whole upper portion of all those cells are destroyed and the chemicals are released. So no vesicle, but the chemical molecules move to the apical end and enter upper portion is destroyed. Now you see what happens next. From the bottom part of the cell, again the upper portion is formed. And chemicals accumulate there again. Okay, a lot of chemicals accumulate at the upper end, and then again the entire upper end is destroyed. So that is the apocrine type secretion occurs from the apocrine glands. And the last one is holocrine type secretion. In this type of secretion, the chemicals are everywhere inside the cells, and what happens? The cells are completely destroyed. Completely, the cells are destroyed, and the chemicals get out. That is holocrine. Probably you have heard that term, holocaust. Have you heard it? Death, right? massive death. So the cells die completely, many cells, and release the chemicals. Chemicals get out. Make sense? Now, then how we get the new cells? Because the gland must get the new cells to release the chemicals again. We have stem cells here. So from the stem cells, when all these cells are completely destroyed, chemicals get out. From these cells, new cells are produced from the stem cells. So that is the holocrine type secretion. Your skin has 3 types of glands, 2 sweat glands and 1 type of sebaceous, and we see all these 3 types of secretions. So we'll talk about that now. Now you know how these 3 types of secretions occur. So let's see. So skin has sweat glands and sebaceous glands. 2 types of sweat glands are eccrine and apocrine. Now you see these terms, right? Eccrine sweat glands are also called merocrine sweat glands because the type of secretion is merocrine type secretion. Make sense? And apocrine sweat glands are apocrine type glands. The secretion is apocrine type secretion. Now, eccrine or merocrine glands are abundant on palms, soles, and forehead. In those areas, highly watery secretion. So secretion is highly watery. 99% is water. Also, sodium chloride, which is salt. You know, when if you touch your tongue on the skin when sweating occurs, it's salty, right? Sweat. So why? Because sodium chloride, salt, is present. Vitamin C, antibodies, metabolic wastes are present in the sweat. Ducts connect to pore. If you see the sweat gland, eccrine sweat gland, like coiled tube-like structure. This is the gland, and from the gland a duct tube goes out. This is the skin surface, and this is the pore. So this is gland, this is duct, and this is pore. So sweating occurs. Function is thermoregulation, regulation of body temperature. We know that when body temperature increases, water gets out by the eccrine secretion, and that lowers the body temperature. Apocrine sweat glands confined to axillary and anogenital areas. In confined areas, those areas are closed, not very open areas. So in those areas we have apocrine secretion, and the secretion contains oily substances or chemicals, and this secretion has bactericidal action. That means what? The secretion has the chemicals that can destroy the microorganisms or bacteria, which is important because we know that in those areas the chance of the microorganisms grow is more because those are confined areas, closed areas. Sebaceous glands, another type of glands in the skin, widely distributed, most developed from hair follicles. That's why you'll see sebaceous glands are attached to the hair follicles. Here you see that this is the eccrine gland that I showed you, like coiled tube and duct and pore. Okay, this is sebaceous gland attached to the hair follicle. Why? Because most of the sebaceous glands grow from the hair follicles. Become active at puberty, and the secretion is called sebum. So sebum is the secretion of sebaceous gland, and sweat is the secretion of sweat glands. So very simple. The sebum is oily secretion, and the secretion occurs by holocrine, complete destruction of the cells, holocrine type secretion. And the action is bactericidal action. This chemical can kill the microorganisms. And another function is sebum, since it is oily, it keeps the skin and hair soft and smooth. So if you have more sebaceous gland, your skin is more soft, right? Sometimes you'll see dry skin. That could be due to lack of sebaceous secretion. Here you see the histology. So they have shown the sebaceous gland. You see the gland is filled with the cells, and those cells are completely destroyed to release the chemicals. And around those cells you see the tiny cells here. These are the stem cells. So when these cells are completely destroyed to release the chemicals, these stem cells produce new cells again. Okay, and this is the hair follicle. So you know that sebaceous gland is attached to the hair follicle. Here is accessory structure of the integumentary system, and here is dead keratinized, consists of dead keratinized cells. Again, the cells are dead and filled with that highly specialized protein called keratin, and that keratin in the hair is slightly different than the keratin of the skin. This keratin is harder than the skin keratin. So that hard keratin of the hair makes the hair durable, more durable than soft keratin of the skin. So that's why, you know, after death, even whole body is destroyed, you see the hair still, you know, is not destroyed. The reason is hair is filled with hard, durable keratin. The hair keratin gets mixed with melanin. That gives the color. The color of keratin is whitish because it is protein. But why the color of the hair is, you know, dark or brown? Because of the melanin. The synthesis of melanin decreases when we get old. The production of melanin declines, and that's why the hair turns gray or white because of lack of melanin. Now if you see the structure of the hair, the part of the hair that is exposed outside of the skin, that is called the shaft of the hair that you see from outside. That is the hair shaft. Inside the skin you have what? Hair follicle and root. Those parts are inside the skin. Make sense? Only the shaft part we see from outside. Now if you see the shaft under the microscope, you'll see it has three layers. Outermost is the cuticle. That's the shiny outer layer of the hair shaft. Middle one is the cortex, and inner part is called medulla. So this is the structure of the shaft of the hair shaft. Okay. Now, if you see the structure of the follicle, which is inside the skin, your follicle is like this. You see, this is the shaft. You see from outside this part, and this is the follicle. So inside the follicle, you have the shaft. Make sense? You have the shaft inside the follicle. So now, if I cut here, what I will see? I will see shaft inside, right? And additional structure outside. So if you cut the follicle here, you will see shaft inside and additional layers around that. So this is the shaft, and in follicle you have other 3 layers around that. Okay, so that is the follicle. Which 3 additional layers you have around the shaft in follicle? This is the structure of the follicle, cross section. So you see first shaft part inside, it has medulla cortex cuticle, and then you have internal epithelial root sheath, external epithelial root sheath, and a glassy membrane. So those are actually 4 layers around the shaft: internal epithelial root sheath, external epithelial root sheath, glassy membrane, and connective tissue root sheath. So those are the additional layers present in the follicle around the shaft. Okay, so just know that that's the structure. Now, 2 types of hair are present in the body: vellus and terminal. Vellus is soft, pale, fine body hair, mostly present in children and women, female. Terminal hair are thick, coarse, long hair of the eyebrows, scalp, axillary, and pubic areas, and also in case of male, the facial hair and the hair around in the neck area. So the coarse, thick, long hair are terminal hair. Fine, soft, pale hair are vellus. Those 2 types of hair. Now, baldness. Baldness is the loss of hair or absence of hair. Now, 2 types of baldness occur. One is called alopecia. This one happens to everybody. When we get old, like at age of 40, we start to lose hair. Okay, hair get thin, the scalp, and that happens to both male and female after age 40. And that thinning of hair is called alopecia. Another type of baldness that you can see clearly, no hair is present, right? The skull is like very shiny. No hair at all. So that is the true or frank baldness. And this one is actually genetically determined, controlled by the genes. If the parent, like father, has bald, usually the son will get that baldness. Okay, and a chemical that is a precursor of testosterone, male sex hormone, which is called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. Testosterone is male sex hormone. So the stage before that, precursor of testosterone, called DHT, dihydrotestosterone, this chemical can inhibit the hair follicles and the growth of hair can be retarded or stopped. So That's why we sometimes say that sex hormone is related to baldness. Let's stop here. We'll talk from next slide in next class. Okay.